The question was, what is the Moody's Analytics outlook for Asia and for China and for Europe? You know, I didn't talk about this, yet it's so important, particularly here for the county, because of the open nature of the economy, and what happens in Asia and Europe does have an impact here. There are risks in the Asian economy and the European economy that are out there, and we need to be watching it very, very closely. And the risks are actually quite the opposite. In China, the risk is in terms of overheating, that there was a tremendous amount of fiscal stimulus and monetary stimulus in the Chinese economy that allowed China to continue to grow, supported commodity prices as their voracious demand for global commodities continued through the global downturn, and certainly helped keep the downturn in this economy from being worse than it was. There may be a little bit of a price to pay in terms of a number of bad loans coming due, particularly a number of bad loans that went right to local governments in China. The other risk is the housing market. I think there truly is a housing market bubble in China, and how that gets resolved, whether it's a hard landing or a soft landing, will have a lot to do with how the Chinese economy moves going forward. Our forecast right now is that the Chinese economy slows from about 9 to 10% GDP growth to about 7 to 8% GDP growth, which is, in a sense, a soft landing and is a sustainable rate of growth in China. In Europe, of course, it's the opposite with the sovereign debt crisis and the risk that banks and individual countries, of course, face in terms of their financial situation. I'm become a little more optimistic over the last just couple of days, given the fact that the Germans and the French seem to be increasingly willing to support the Greeks in terms of providing them some bridge loans that ought to get them through 2013. 2013 is a key year for two reasons. One is that there will be a permanent European stabilization fund put together by the European Central Bank that will be available in 2013 for companies that face sovereign debt issues. And also, by 2013, the broader banking system in Europe ought to be much more healthy. The banking system in Europe is behind the U.S. system in terms of recapitalizing and restructuring. The Europeans put their banks through a series of stress tests over the last couple of years, but not nearly to the degree of the parameters were not tight enough in Europe. I mean, after one round of stress testing, it wasn't a month later that several Irish banks ran into deep trouble. There's a new round of stress testing going on right now with the European banks, and the results are due in July. We'll have a little better idea of what the European banks have to do to recapitalize and restructure going forward, and then by 2013 we should be a little bit better. Ben.
Thank you, Steve, very much. Really appreciate it. And for all of you, you've gotten Steve's forecast here. It also will be on our website around noon, and you can download it from our site there. Also, we are learning this iPad technology. We did get a number of questions on the iPad. We'll be posting those on our website along with answers from Steve in the next few days. Now we'll have an update from the Innovation Action Council. This effort has been focused on helping understand the challenges we face over the long term and helping develop approaches for the short term as well. This year, the focus for the Council has been on our key economic sectors and the challenges and opportunities they face. The effort's been guided by Oscar Chavez and Bill Carson, who served as co-chairs of the Council. With support from the Morgan Family Foundation over the last few months, a series of focus group meetings were held with 5 industry clusters. A cross-section of people from each cluster participated and really spoke up about the needs they see and the opportunities to grow their cluster. The process was led by Doug Henton of Collaborative Economics. You'll get an opportunity to hear about the process from Doug, and then get a brief summary of each of the cluster findings from people from the clusters themselves. Following these presentations, you'll get an opportunity to help be in a process to help build a vision for our economy so we can improve it over the next few years. So let's begin with Oscar Chavez. Oscar is the Executive Director of the Community Action Partnership. Oscar is also in leadership in a number of activities, chairing the First Five Commission for Sonoma County, co-chair of the Health Action Council, board member of the Community Foundation, and he's just been in his job for 3 years at the Community Action Partnership, so Oscar's a busy guy. When I introduce Oscar to boomers, I like to say he's kind of like being around a young JFK, and if for millennials, I say he's a young Obama. So Oscar, please come up and take it away.
Well, thank you, Ben. And being chair of First Five, I really need to address the early childhood education question. And it was the Chicago economist, Nobel laureate James Heckman, who said, if you want to improve the economy, if you want to make sure that we have a strong workforce, then the best investments you can make are in early childhood education. So that's where we need to invest. So thank you, Ben, and good morning, everyone. I'm really pleased to see that we have such a great turnout here today and so much interest in improving our economy and jobs here in Sonoma County. I serve as the Executive Director for the Community Action Partnership, which is charged with helping low-income families and individuals attain success economically and socially. Quite obviously, the first step towards economic success is a job, and I have a strong commitment towards doing whatever we can to create and maintain a healthy economy and stable job base. Because of this commitment, I have served on the Innovation Council for the last 3 years, and this year was asked to co-chair with Bill Carson. The Innovation Action Council is charged with taking the long view of our economy. We started in 2008 by commissioning a major study of our economy and over the next decade. The biggest finding from that study was a great need for raising Hispanic educational attainment. The study sparked new efforts for education designed to produce a corresponding improvement in the local job market and the county economic climate. This year, we moved to phase 2, undertaking a cluster analysis with the help of a noted expert in this area, Mr. Doug Henton of Collaborative Economics. We felt that in order to devise initiatives to create jobs and strengthen our clusters, we needed to go to the people most directly involved, the people putting their own money, energy, and skills to work to help make this a vital economy. The owners and managers of businesses are on the front line, and we needed to hear their opinions, their experiences, and their ideas to give us a better understanding for what it will take to create more jobs and income in Sonoma County. Over the last 6 months, we gathered owners and managers from 5 major cluster areas to sound off on what their opportunities are, what obstacles they face, what outcomes they'd like to see, and how they could reach these outcomes. They met in a focus group setting with Doug Henton and his team at Collaborative Economics. Today, Doug Henton will give you more information about what clusters are and why they are important. Then you'll hear a brief summary from spokespeople for each of the clusters who will discuss what they see as promising opportunities for job creation and innovation. More than 60 leaders have already agreed to help champion these actions, working with community partners to implement these initiatives. As you'll soon hear, 4 themes have emerged from the individual cluster meetings. The first theme was the need to enhance our branding, our promotion and sense of place for Sonoma County businesses. The second theme is the need for a better trained workforce. The third, the need for simplification in both regulation and sustainability programs. And finally, the need to further develop dialogue exchange and cooperation amongst the clusters. These 4 cluster themes are just the first step. By no means do these clusters represent all businesses in our county, but they represent a snapshot of the participants and their perspectives. But we are here today to talk about the next step. We want to share with you where we are today, and most importantly, before this morning is out, we want to hear from you. So please stick around for our interactive brainstorming session to help turn your ideas into reality. We hope to partner with other groups and/or leverage their efforts wherever possible. So if you see ways that a group you're a part of could be involved and help lead the ideas here, please let us know. If existing groups can help take the lead on some of these initiatives, that would be great. So thank you for your time this morning, and my thanks as well to the cluster participants who gave their time and best ideas to advance our economy and jobs here in Sonoma County. We're hearing first from Doug Henton, who facilitated the meetings, followed by representatives from each of the clusters. We'll finish up with a recap of the 4 key themes that emerged from our findings. So now it is my pleasure to introduce Doug Henton. Doug Henton has more than 30 years of experience in economic and community development at the national, regional, state, and local levels. He is nationally recognized for his work in bringing industry, government, education, research, and community leaders together around specific collaborative projects to improve economic competitiveness. Nationally, Doug is a consultant to the National Governors Association, the Pew Charitable Trust, and coordinator of the National Climate Prosperity Project. In California, Doug is a consultant to the California Economic Strategy Panel, California's first state economic strategy process linked to industry clusters and regions. He helped launch collaborative economic development efforts in Sacramento, Fresno, and San Diego. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Doug Henton.
Thank you very much, and it's also good to be back. I've had a chance to work here over the last 15 years, and I've worked with Ben, and I've worked with Steve, and it's a very exciting time to really have a chance to sit down and talk about where we go next. But I want to reflect just briefly on where we've been. I want to compliment the work here of the Economic Development Board and Sonoma County. Going back to the Economic Vitality Project, Steve sort of referenced that. In the 90s, there was an effort to come together and really think about where the economy is going and bring together leadership. And some things came out of that, some specific actions. One of them was bringing the tourism industry together in a way it never has before. That was a very important step. And the other one had to do with working with Sonoma State University, developing an engineering program. So the idea of this is to bring together key industry leaders and to find out what are the critical actions that are appropriate for the time. The other thing I want to compliment is that once the conditions changed in the 90s, particularly around some of the topics that Steve pointed out, global competition, changing demographics, things that have happened to the resource base of our economy, the Innovation Council was created by the Board of Supervisors to really look at how to develop a strategy that's appropriate for the challenges that came about in the early 2000s to deal with some of the economic issues and some of those topics Oscar pointed out, particularly around workforce, trying to bring the educational system together with the changes of the demographics in this county and also making sure that those conditions are connected to jobs. Now we are talking about focusing on these critical clusters. And I'll talk a little bit about what we mean by clusters. Again, I think Steve did a really good job in saying that conditions change. And it's important to step back a little bit and say, what are those critical driving industries today that are different than they were in the 90s? And some analysis has identified what they are. And what we did, working with the Economic Development Board and others, is we brought together business leaders in these areas because it's so important to hear what they have to say in terms of what their critical needs are. And so we did have these focus groups, and I'll explain the process that we used.